Octavia, thank you very much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thanks for having me.
A great panel. Thank you for moderating. For the people that don't know Octavia, Nasr, I find it hard to believe that a lot of people, especially in this region,
Oh, I think many people don't know.
Nasr. Tell us a little bit about your background, what are you doing now?
Well, I am of Lebanese origin. I was born and raised in Lebanon, and I moved to the U.S. to work for CNN in 1990 after the invasion of Kuwait. And I was with the company for 20 years, left in 2010, and established my firm, Bridges Media Consulting. So I do media consulting. And I mean, I'm the mother of two beautiful girls. They're 13 and 15, almost 13 and almost 15, Noor and Aya. And I'm married. I live in Atlanta, Georgia, in the U.S. And I work for, now I work for myself, Bridges Media Consulting. But I also anchor, I started anchoring Kalam Nawa'im, co-anchoring. With three other beautiful ladies, and that's been really exciting for me. And that airs on NBC One Sundays at 9 p.m.
Excellent. Little plug.
Little plug.
Is that the Arabic version of
The View?
The View?
Yes. Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So you just moderated a panel on a lot of hot issues in the Middle East. Tell us a little bit about that panel, some of the speakers, some of the things that were said.
Yeah, actually I moderated a panel on Iran earlier in the day, which was very, very exciting. It was about, Iran's nuclear ambitions and
One of the mostly attended conferences.
yeah, actually we had a full house. We had to close the door. The room was full, and it was amazing. Great speakers with great backgrounds. Really know the region. They know the topic so well. A lot of them with diplomatic backgrounds. So we were able to really not just talk about Iran, but also talk about what's happening in Gaza, with the Israeli airstrikes on Gaza and the possibility of, dragging other players into that conflict, and the role of Arabs and the role of Iran and so forth. So, it was good. And we just finished the plenary session, which talked about the Arab Spring and the problem of representation. Because, as we all celebrated the Arab Spring, today if you ask the question, who represents the Arab Spring, or the new leaderships, are they representative of the Arab Spring, or do they speak for the Arab youth or the Arabs that did bring the change? And, whether you call it a revolution or uprising or awakening or whatever name you give it, who represents those groups abroad. So we had a very interesting plenary session as well. Very interesting in the sense that we looked at how the world sees the Arab Spring, more so than the Arab Spring itself. But again, Gaza was a dominant topic, so that made the conversation even more relevant, because we see this as the biggest test of this Arab Spring, right now. What's happening in Gaza and how Arabs are reacting to it, especially with new leadership, for example, in Egypt, in Tunisia, the coalitions, the partnerships that are being built, with Turkey, other parts of the region. So, it was timely and interesting.
Excellent. I talked earlier to Mr. Alan Bogan, and he was very blunt early on in his intervention, talking about the fact that yes, the U.S. is a staunch supporter of Israel. Okay, so, but during our talk, we also talked about the need to come back to the table, and he specifically raised the point about the quartet that has been defined not playing his role right now. What is your take on that? Do you think that the U.S. should take more of a leadership position at this point? They refuse to do that, or do you think eventually the quartet has to step in with the new Arab League?
Well, I mean, those, quartets, tripartites, whatever, duets, I think the Middle East is tired of these attempts, The problem with that conflict, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, is that it needs to be brokered fairly, and to be brokered fairly, you need fair brokers. And the U.S., unless it has a serious interest in ending the conflict, and when I say serious interest, that means when the U.S. is willing to take certain actions, to rein in certain actions on the ground, the U.S. cannot play the role of a fair broker. I mean, it can be part of the discussion, but I don't think it can play a fair broker role. What I've been calling for, and I write this in my columns, and that's something that I do, every Tuesday I write the editorial for Nasr newspaper. And what I've been writing about, and I've been saying all along, is that this is the time for Arabs to act. Arabs need to stop calling on the quartets and Europe and France and Britain and the US to play a role. The only people who can play an effective role are the Arabs, in the sense that they need to support the Palestinian issue. They need to define it, they need to understand and make it clear who they support, because the Palestinians are going through a problem of representation as well. Who really represents the Palestinians? Who speaks for them? Obviously, Hamas hijacked the whole situation by, sending rockets into Israel, which triggered Israel to start this ferocious airstrike campaign against Hamas in Gaza. So, this is really hijacking the Palestinian cause, regardless of, how terrible the events are and the loss of life and all that. But it's very important that the Arabs define that, and they need to play a role. They need to provide support, diplomatic support, political support, economic support. And there is lots to be done for the Palestinian cause before we even ask